In the whirlwind of modern American politics, few figures have dominated the public consciousness as thoroughly as Donald J. Trump. His rise was not just political. It was theatrical. Every word, every gesture, every tweet seemed calculated for maximum attention. To some, he represented a new era of leadership, bold and unfiltered. To others, he was a menace, a disruptor of norms, and a challenge to the very idea of governance. But whether one admired or feared him, there was no denying his ability to command the stage. Yet, the story of Trump is not complete without understanding those who dared to resist him. For years, his opponents followed outdated strategies, appeasing, negotiating, tiptoeing around his bluster, hoping that civility or patience could counter chaos. But that era of caution ended. A seismic shift in approach emerged, a deliberate strategic counteroffensive. It was no longer enough to debate policy quietly in committee rooms or issue press releases buried in news cycles. To truly challenge Trump required weaponizing the very tactics he excelled at: spectacle, exaggeration, and performance against him. Before we go any further, make sure you subscribe to Scandal Pulse. We bring you stories behind the headlines, deep dives into political strategy, and analyses that reveal the truth that others are afraid to tell. Hit the subscribe button now so you never miss a moment of the stories we uncover. California Governor Gavin Newsom became one of the most compelling figures in this resistance. Unlike previous politicians who approached Trump cautiously, Newsom embraced a more audacious strategy, exposing weakness through undeniable evidence amplified with sharp ridicule. It wasn't just confrontation, it was precision. Take, for instance, a controversy over Trump's alleged sketches connected to Jeffrey Epstein. While many would have issued a bland denial, Newsom presented undeniable visual proof of Trump's own drawings, then countered Trump's frantic denial with just 3 words. "I never wrote a picture in my life." The effect was instantaneous. Trump's hysteria against cold evidence became a viral moment of humiliation, proving that ridicule coupled with truth can unravel even the most imposing public figure. This strategic dismantling didn't stop at personal digs. Newsom extended it to policy battles, public order issues, and national media spectacles. When Trump deployed 4,000 National Guard soldiers and 700 Marines to Los Angeles in the midst of anti-IC protests, bypassing both Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass, he framed it as a show of authority, but Nwomi didn't flinch. Instead, he spotlighted the reality. Troops deployed with no real chaos to manage, morale plummeting, boredom setting in. Headlines like the LA Times troops ended up fighting boredom turned Trump's attempt at theatrical strength into public comedy. And the pattern repeated endlessly. Every boast, every denial, every attempt to intimidate was met with evidence and mockery. Trump's claim that tariffs were not inflationary despite rising consumer prices was reframed by critics not through dry economic lectures, but by portraying the administration as cartoonish spokespeople in a golden age fantasy. The absurdity became inescapable, communicated not through numbers but through ridicule and repetition. Infrastructure battles follow the same formula. When Trump attempted to cut California's high-speed rail funding and personally attacked Nwomi on social media, Nwomi responded not with caution, but with facts. 15,000 jobs created, 171 miles of active construction, over 50 major structures completed, and nearly 500 of environmental reviews documented. Each milestone became a counter-argument. Then came the public shaming of Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley, standing at a sparsely attended podium while supporting the funding cut. The message was crystal clear. These were not serious policymakers. They were performative saboteurs willing to attack their constituents for political theater. The brilliance of this approach lay in its consistency. Every line met evidence. Every boast met echo. Every threat met escalation. Trump thrived on chaos and victimhood. Deny him both, and his carefully constructed persona unraveled when he released fragments of Epstein's grand jury testimony as a distraction. Nwomi and allies demanded more witness interviews, flight logs, and unredacted investigation files. By reframing the partial release as an obvious cover-up, they exposed the desperation beneath the spectacle. Even pop culture was not safe from this strategic counterattack. Trump aide Stephen Miller was humorously likened to Voldemort from the Harry Potter franchise. It was more than just mockery. It cemented Miller's public identity as a villain, subtly eroding authority through shared cultural references. Similarly, other Trump allies and appointees were framed as reality TV actors or celebrities playing dress-up, turning an entire administration into a theater of the absurd in public perception. The tactic extended to personal confrontations as well. In one notable example, Trump surrogates tried to explain away visible physical issues, claiming hand discoloration came from vigorous handshakes or simple aspirin. Newsom countered by showing raw footage of the tarmac encounter, where Trump visibly recoiled from his presence. No words were necessary. The visual evidence screamed weakness louder than any speech or press release ever could. Trump's attempt at distraction and grandstanding, whether through doodles, birthday cards, or declarations of infrastructure triumphs, were all met with the same formula. Isolate the lie, counter with proof, amplify with ridicule, and let public perception do the rest. The effect was cumulative, creating a sustained narrative that painted him as fragile, performative, and incapable of consistent authority. The modern battlefield of political resistance is no longer fought in secret or in traditional media alone. Social media, viral videos, and public visual evidence have become essential tools. A single clip of Trump retreating, denying, or performing a ludicrous act can undo months of messaging. The lesson is clear. Attention is currency. Those who master it through evidence, narrative control, and precise ridicule hold power far beyond traditional legislative channels. Trump's deployments of military forces to California and Washington, D.C. illustrate this point perfectly. Intended as demonstrations of strength and authority, these actions became public spectacles of ineffectiveness when juxtaposed with actual footage of idle troops, public shaming, and social media ridicule. Even Attorney General Pam Bondi acknowledged the federal administration's willingness to stretch powers. Yet, the state's visual and factual counters consistently undermine the intended message. It is crucial to recognize that this is not negativity for its own sake. Every meme, every clip, every sarcastic remark in these campaigns is tactical. The goal is not merely to mock. It is to reveal the cracks beneath the public persona. Every denial, every boast, every attempted display of strength becomes an opportunity to show fragility, exposing the performance as hollow. Newsom's consistent approach demonstrates that this method is replicable. Isolate lies, confront with proof, and wrap it in ridicule. The results are powerful. Allies cringe, opponents embolden, public perception shifts, and the cult of personality loses its grip. Even beyond California, this model of resistance sends a lesson to the entire nation. Authoritarian tendencies thrive on fear, spectacle, and controlled narratives. When those dynamics are met with precision, evidence, and a public display of wit, the illusion of power can collapse. Trump, who once dominated headlines and social media alike, found himself repeatedly reacting, not leading, trapped in cycles of rebuttal, ridicule, and exposure. The cumulative effect of these strategies is instructive. By refusing to play by the bully's rules, by embracing transparency, mockery, and visual storytelling, Newsom and his allies showcase a roadmap for resistance in the digital age. The bully isn't defeated by debate alone. He is dismantled by clarity, consistency, and a strategic use of evidence amplified for the public eye. Each viral moment, each public comparison, each viral meme became a brick in the wall separating Trump's perception from reality. This story is far from over. The tension between federal power, state authority, and public accountability continues to play out in courts, streets, and media feeds across the nation. But one lesson is clear. Modern resistance is asymmetrical. It leverages the aggressor's weight against them. It converts chaos into clarity. It uses ridicule and evidence not as weapons of mockery alone, but as instruments of truth and accountability. Trump's performances, once a symbol of unstoppable force, have become case studies in fragility when confronted with precision, strategy, and unflinching public exposure. And this is where the lesson reaches its full force. Fear loses to evidence. Chaos loses to clarity. Spectacle loses to strategy. In the end, the showman is unmasked. The bully's facade is shattered, and the public sees what the most prepared critics always knew. The emperor has no clothes. Through laughter, ridicule, and relentless fact-based confrontation, those who refuse to be intimidated turn vulnerability into power. Trump's era of unchecked bluster may have dominated the headlines, but in the long view, it has produced a masterclass in resistance. By using social media, viral clips, and public scrutiny as tools, critics like Governor Gavin Newsom have shown that even the most dominant figures can be systematically exposed. Each denial, each boast, each failed stunt is another thread unraveling the carefully woven narrative of dominance. This is a blueprint for modern political resistance. It is not about whispered warnings, timid debates, or polite dissent. It is about confronting spectacle with evidence, intimidation with confidence, and bluster with ridicule. It is about holding leaders accountable in the court of public perception where clarity, humor, and truth cut sharper than any legislation or press release ever could. And as the nation watches, one lesson becomes undeniable. The power of performance can be turned on its head, and the most fearsome figures can be exposed when strategy meets relentless truth.